Hey, Shalom Amakim, Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Habakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone and rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. News in the gospel, bro. Lifting up the standard of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. Salakia. Yeah, Salakia. But anyway, this is another lesson through the Spirit. It says, no more flying without valid identification in the U.S. TSA will impose a $45 fee on those who do not present a real ID at the airport. Hey, there we go. Told you this real ID shit that they've been pushing. They've really been pushing this shit since like 2017. But they actually was pushing it before then. Going back to like 2012, they was talking about it. But it kept getting shut down because, just it'll go through certain bills and they'll shut it down, and people was complaining that it was a constitutional violation, which in fact it really is. Because they finally made it, they didn't mandate it, but this is a way of them mandating it. Because most people, they fly in order to get on a plane. Most people travel, they get on planes to go to, whether it be Florida, California, overseas, whatever. So now they're requiring it for you to fly domestically in the United States. And you got to ask yourself, why are they requiring a real ID if it's essentially the same as the other ID that you had? Your regular driver's license, your state ID is pretty much the same thing. The same card, it just got that little, I think it got like a little particular badge on it, like a star on it or something like that. But they're requiring it now for you to fly. And that lets you know that there's a bigger agenda at hand, something nefarious. Because essentially, why are you taxing people, or why would you charge people to fly if they don't have your requirements, man? Okay, a form of gradualism. And this is what we've been telling you people. This is a step close to the mark of the beast, because sooner than later, eventually, this is not going to be sufficient enough. Because one thing about this devil, okay, he just don't stop. He's not going to stop it. He's just not going to stop it at one method. He's going to continue to push the can down the road, so to speak. Because at first, you had to have a state ID. Then you had to have this. Now you got to have a real ID. And when that's not good enough, then you're going to have the digital ID. And when that's not good enough, then you're going to have the RFID chip. And that's called gradualism, when you're gradually implementing something over a course of time for a particular agenda. And in this case, Esau is getting people on board mentally to accept the mark, man. Apostle Tahar was going into it. He said by 2026, they can very well start pushing this in the whole level. They're pushing it now. Okay, they're not coming out saying, well, you got to get the mark. But nonetheless, they are still pushing it because, look at this. Okay, how the hell is the Transportation Security Agency, which is not it's not really a conglomerate of the United States. All this shit is privately owned. It's not even really part of the United States government, even though they implemented it in within government reach. You have what they call government overreach, which judges was on a panel asking Trump if he was doing too much. And essentially they are. But this is really overreach, man. But regardless of it, how can they impose fines on people because they don't have your particular requirements when essentially my regular driver's license says the same thing as a fucking real ID? What's the difference? A badge? And sooner or later, it's going to be the microchip. But anyway, it says here, distracted people of the world, watch out for this. It says, if you are one of those who does the check-in running and leaves home without looking twice at your wallet, now forgetting your identification at a United States airport is going to cost you $50. And this is how they get people, because one thing about the American people, they complain about being overly taxed. And this is nothing more but another tax. Okay, they had a thing called no taxation without representation, but see how far that's gotten people. That's totally going out the window. But it says, in its regulation that is already in place, you will need to pay that amount so that the airport staff can access a special verification process because you are forgetful. It says, and only if the system confirms that you are you, then you would be able to travel But be careful because they do not guarantee that you will make your flight or that system will not fail and you do not get your money back. So it says here it's it's Pagagi. And I'm going to look that word up. That's kind of strange. Pagagi, what does this mean? Okay, the method of practice teaching, especially an academic subject or a theoretical concept. Okay, in theory, as they say. But it says this is what they say from TSA since the real ID was implemented. There are people who believe that they can travel without identification, and no, sir. And technically, they should be able to because we have a right to travel. Okay, we have a right to travel. You have driving and you have traveling, two different things. Now, for commercial use, you have what you call driving because, it requires a license to move the said product. But if you're traveling from here to New York or a different country, essentially, I don't need to be identified for that. And of course, you want to have papers and stuff like that just to have some type of thing go on your body or on your person. But even then, I ain't got to do a fucking background check just to prove I am who I am. The fucking ID says this. My face looks just like my ID. How am I going to falsify that? So anyway. But it says here, until a few years ago, traveling without documentation was something that happened very rarely, almost anecdotal than reality, and now it is the opposite. It says every day there are several users who have forgotten identification. So faced with this situation, the TSA wants to punish those who believe they can travel without documentation or at least teach them that they can only forget it one time. It says with the now new fee, the agency wants to change traveler behavior before they reach the checkpoint. So the logic is simple and a bit paternalistic. And it's not the fact that people is forgetting it. This is a consequence implemented on people to gradually shape their minds into receiving his mark. And that's what it's about. So they push certain shit out there to kind of get people to shake up a little bit. Same thing with the chip. They're going to introduce things by classes. And even as society is still intact, things are going to still be more of in a convenient stage. So people are going to opt into getting the chip because, things ain't really going to shit yet. That's how they get people. It says the logic is simple but a bit paternalistic. But we are not going to deny it. But surely it costs you money. You would check twice if you carry your identification with you. It says here, but the cost will be around $50 per passenger, almost the same as a check bag or a dinner in a fancy place. But you would pay it at the same checkpoint right before starting the verification. But be careful because if you do not pay, you do not fly. And paying does not ensure that you will fly. All right. It says this document allows you to travel for 10 days, but if it doesn't, it says, but it does not replace the ID or passport. Okay. So it says here, the TSA say that those who are left without documents are not clueless tourists, but people who travel often, people who live between flights, who lose, forget, or renew IDs constantly. But there's also concern that this fee punishes people with fewer resources, victims of theft or bureaucratic problems. And bureaucracies are known to be a known problem. Okay, you go into bureaucracy, it goes into like a donkey, and a donkey is known for what? Its work ethic, a burden. That's what bureaucracies were created to oppress our people. The child support systems, the courts, the traffic courts, the public health, the state agencies, the city agencies, the federal, all these are bureaucracies, man, that's created by a bunch of wicked men that want to oppress the people. Okay, but it says here, consumer rights organizations have already requested humanitarian exceptions, but for the moment, there is no confirmation that they're going to reverse the measure. But it says here, airlines fear that a new rule will generate anger, arguments at the counter, and more stress for workers. Plus, this measure arrives just in a season when more Americans fly, and the TSA staff is rather short, and the idea of charging $50 to someone upset because they lost their wallet does not sound precisely calm. But the phone ID, this is where it gets tricky. It said this is what they attend, and they are working with Android and iOS to advance biometric verification and digital identifications. But even so, you still have to carry a physical document every time you travel because technology can fail, but the eyes of TSA workers do not. It says the transition is going slow, we know, but as we say, until it is universal, we will continue to depend on a physical document. So better check twice if you carry everything with you than have to pay $50. Surely you'll miss your flight. But, like I said, gradualism is a real thing. This is all a gradual process to the built up of the market of beasts. Okay? And you got Israelites out there that's stating, still saying that, oh, well, The chip is not the RFID chip. Okay, now there was a video. I think Bow Israelites did it. I guess they were going into the chip. I didn't see the video, but I think a brother did a response to it. So I speculate that they may have changed their stance on it. Who knows? But a lot of camps are going to change their stance on it because, I mean, now it's more evident. But even with the change of stance on this chip, they're not going to still repent, and they're not going to still offer a formal apology to them, to the apostles on down. Because in their mindset, we ain't shit but a bunch of bums. They gonna teach, well, we always said it was the chip, brother. No, y'all didn't, because we got the receipts on all you jakes. Okay? But anyway, this is the book of Proverbs 14, and I'm gonna start at verses 17. It says, he that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. And this is why the world is coming up against Esau, man. You want to put everybody in a social credit system, and you want to take people by storm, and you want to put people in situations that seems dire. Eventually people just gonna rise up against you. But the American people is so fucking stupid to the point they know where this is headed, but they don't care, because as long as they can go to work and pay their overinflated mortgage and their expensive car notes, this is all they truly give a damn about. As long as we still have some semblance of the American dream, and I can still go out on Saturday night and dance and club and watch football on Sunday, then hey, I don't have a problem with what y'all doing until it's too late. This is why you people are getting ready to get caught off guard with all this. Okay? Jeremiah 49, and let's go to verses 31. And it says here, arise and get you up to the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, says Yahweh, which have neither bars nor gates, which dwell alone. Yeah, the wealthy nation. Now, even though, you go into the ancient Neo-Babylonian Empire, you go into Syria, okay, you go into the ancient Greeks, the Romans. The scriptures is constantly moving, all right, because things that's from the past that was written is written for our learning today. So essentially, the ancient kingdoms that the men of the Lord spoke against, a lot of times they have the same setup as today, because things are reincarnated, or things are regurgitated, so to speak. Okay, the concept of setting up a kingdom like Babylon the Great goes all the way back into Greece. Okay, it goes back to Egypt, Babylon. And this is just all those kingdoms wrapped up in this one wicked infrastructure. So it's the same paradigm. So essentially what the prophets spoke about ancient Babylon, you can apply it to modern day Babylon where it fits. For those jakes, they be like, well, y'all always saying that don't say America. Look, dog, it's called extrapolating through the spirit. But it says the Lord, which hath neither bars nor gates, which dwell alone. It says, and their camels should be a booty, and the multitude of their cattle was spoiled, and I will scatter into all the winds, then at our utmost corners, and I will bring their calamity from all sides thereof. Because eventually there's going to come a time of reckoning. They're going to push this through the food systems. They're going to push it through your work, to have a home, to drive a car. You're going to have to get the MOT busy. And we've been saying it. We've been blowing the trumpet. And eventually it's going to come to pass. Like it tells us in Ezekiel, then they should know that a prophet has been among them. So remember where you heard it first, man. Okay, and can't nobody in the Israelite community deny that GMS have not been the main ones blowing the trumpet on this trip. Okay. Go here. 2 Ezra 15:1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy that I will put in their mouth, says Yahweh. Prophecy. Okay, because prophecy means to say before. It says the cause going to be written in paper, for they are faithful and they are true. And prime example, what is this? No more flying without valid identification in the U.S., meaning that you got to have the real ID in order to get on the plane. And they was pushing it domestically. So if you want to go to Orlando or Miami, guess what? You're going to have to get the real ID, which essentially, it's not off to get it. I mean, in most cases, it's probably wise if you did get it. But, that's a case-by-case basis, okay? Because I know brothers travel, brothers fly, and some brothers already have it. But keep in mind that this is a gradual step towards more and more stringent measures, man. So having a mindset of being resistant, just like with the RFI, with the jab 3-4 years ago. Okay, we was in a mindset of being resistant, and the Heavenly Father brought us through, because they was trying to impose that on brothers, and you had some guys that wasn't really rooted that got it, and then you had other Israelite leaders out there pushing the congregations to get it, and then you had several men that dropped dead in these various congregations, which is being swept under the rug. You see, So you got to be in that more of a resistant mindset to anything that's like this. Okay, the real ID, like the digital shit. Hey, I'm not opting to nothing digital, but it may come a time that you may have to do it for certain things. But remember, the next step is the chip, and you have to resist that if you have a chance on getting up out of here. So the minute they say, well, look, y'all got to come and get fitted with a microscopic tag or under the skin surveillance, that's when all bets are off. That's when you got to have in your mindset, look, I got to walk away from this shit. Even if I got to walk away from my wife and kids, my families, hell, if I got to walk away from my home, I'm walking away from my job. That you got to be in a mindset to depart this shit, man. Okay, if you second guess it, then you are already beat. Okay, I have no question in my mind when that comes to pass. I'm walking away from everything, Lord's will. The minute they say, oh yeah, y'all got to do this, I'm out. Fuck this shit. This crib, whatever. It's just gonna be here. So hey, whoever gets it, hey, it's on them. Because we have to detach. You have to be in a mindset of letting go. Okay, our ancient forefathers going into Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Even when you go into Second Maccabees, the 7 sons, what did they do? They resist the mandates of those empires. Going back into Second Maccabees when those men were tortured because they didn't want to bow down to the system. Same thing with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We got to take the same approach. And it's good to really read those stories over and over again so you can get in the mindset of what our ancient forefathers did so you can be prepared to walk away from this shit, because we have to depart from this, man. Okay, we cannot, this system, you can't serve the Most High in mammon. It's just not going to work. And me personally, I will be glad when they hurry up and push it, because that way I have a justification of saying, you know what, fuck this. I'm out. No more work. Fuck all that. I'll take my chances out and fucking homeless somewhere in the woods or whatever it may be. Wherever the Spirit of the Lord has us, that's just what we gonna do. And me personally, I'm not really worried about it. I look forward to it. So adopt that mindset of letting go, man. Let's go here. What is it? First Maccabees. Is it 3? Is it 2? Yep, First Maccabees 2. And let's go down. Yep, 2:50. And it says here, now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers, because some brothers are going to have to get put to death. This is written. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so that ye should receive great honor and an everlasting name. So we have to follow the mindset our ancient men did. It says, was not Abraham found faithful in temptation? And the hour of temptation is near upon us, that the whole world may be tried. And it says, faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness. So are you willing to get a name for Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, or are you willing to get your name blotted out of the book of life because you want to last 5 more minutes paying bills and being a servant to a place that seeks to destroy you? Okay, I have it's not even a question. We out this bitch. Minute they say, well, look, the RFID chip, biometric data, I'm out there. This shit is rap. I've already got it. They can have it. I don't give a shit, man. They can have it all, and they gonna come looking for us, but so be it. Let them come. It says, Joseph in the time of his distress kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phinehas, our father, being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Yahushua, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, you gotta understand, it's not always talking about Yahushua, our Lord, but you have Joshua and Caleb. Okay, you had Caleb and Joshua, and then that continued the succession after Moses died and led us to the promised land. But it says Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land, because remember we divided the lands by inheritance. It says here, David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom, and Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, which is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, by believing were saved out of the flame, and Daniel for his innocency was delivered from the mouth of the lions. And thus consider ye throughout all the ages that none that put their trust in him should be overcome. So you got to keep that in mind, man. All right. Fear not the worms of a sinful man, for his glory should be dung worms, man. Okay, it says, for today he should be lifted up, and tomorrow he should not be found, because he is returned to the dust, and his thought is come to nothing. So wherefore, ye my sons, be vigilant and show yourselves men in behalf of the law, for by it shall ye obtain glory. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you are edified into the next lesson. Shalom.